Morning. Ken, overall, can you just give a sort of a big picture view of how you evaluate the season? How big of a step this team took? How close you are? How far you are away? All that sort of stuff?
You know, I said to our guys yesterday morning, 32 teams started in September, and we were one of 4 playing in June. So that's a pretty big step. When I look, I've been here for 3 years, and when I look at the way we've played in the playoffs, you know, the play-in series against Chicago, and then I look the way we played last year against Winnipeg, and the way we looked in the playoffs this year, we've made great strides in the way that we've playing in playoff hockey. I believe we had the highest point total, Oilers point total in 35 years with 104 points. Saying all that, that's the positives. The negatives are we're having a press conference today because we're out. I think we got beat by a better team. They've been the best team in the West, I think, over the last 2 or 3 years. They won the President's Trophy last year. I think they were second overall this year. 3 games were decided by basically a goal if you take out the empty netters, games 1, 3, and 4. So I think we've made lots of progress. We've got more work to do. Every off season's a busy off season. I've got lots of we've got lots of difficult decisions to make this off season, but I think that we're going in the right direction in terms of obviously the ultimate goal, Terry, is to win the Stanley Cup. And when you've got the nucleus and the core that we've got, that's as the manager, that's what I'm trying to do, is to build around that core of people and to eventually take another step. But I think that we had lots of positives this year.
Okay, in terms of those difficult decisions, can you start with where you see your goaltending picture in the immediate future and what your priority list might be?
Well, obviously, Koski's contract is up. Smitty has a year to go on his contract. I know Smitty's played, for the most part, banged up all year. So Stu Skinner is a guy that certainly is in our plans heading into to next year. Beyond that, I got to kind of go through the process. But I'm going to walk you through. You know, we lost out 2 nights ago. Yesterday we had meet the players at 1 o'clock. I met 3-4 players yesterday afternoon. I think I've got 13. Yesterday we met all the black cases. Exit interviews yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Get everybody's thoughts. Many of them want to get out of town, and then basically starting Monday, I'm going to start to go to work on next season. Now, I've been thinking about next season. That's part of my job in watching the games in the playoffs. But now next season really begins in the next couple of days.
Ken, and you might have the list, Darnell shared with us that he had a torn hip flexor. Leon didn't really want to talk. We know it's more than one injury. You're the general manager. Can you update us on some of the more significant injuries that compromise your players, specifically starting with Draisaitl?
Well, he was playing with a high ankle sprain. He got hurt, I think, game 6 in LA when Mikey Anderson body slammed him. And it was a struggle. You know, you guys saw, I mean, he was going down the odd game. He'd go down after a shift, he'd go down, he'd come back, and he was playing in a lot of pain. So, you know, for me, watching what he went through, I mean, obviously he couldn't practice. He only could play, and he played, but he had 30, 35, 33, 34 points. It was unbelievable at the level that he played at with what he was going through. Nuge was playing with an injured shoulder. You got Nurse with the hip flexor. The last game, Jesse hurt his shoulder. I mean, come playoff time, they play, but I think it's probably Jesse's a 4 to 6 week injury. You know, Smitty Yamamoto was in concussion protocol. So, and then beyond that, I mean, I went through it this morning with TD Force. There's 5, 6, 7 other guys that were playing banged up, but that's this time of the year. That's what NHL players do. They play banged up.
Will Nurse require surgery?
Right now, TD told me as of 15 minutes ago that he does not think anybody needs surgery, but we're getting pictures on a few people, and we'll know more in the next few days.
Ken, you mentioned that, the team made nice progress this year, but obviously didn't get to where you ultimately want to get to. If you had to point to one or two areas of improvement you feel this team needs over the offseason, can you do that right now in terms of, where you need to improve to win a Stanley Cup next year?
Well, I'm going to, they think we're in a cap world. One of the things you need is an internal push. And anybody that's, I said this yesterday in the room, if you're 24 and under, we need you to take a bigger piece of the pie. And whether you've been on the team or, you're in the American League, we need you to push. We need you to push this off season. Take a week off here to get your, mental health and get yourself kind of, all cleaned up, and then you got to dig in here in the off season to be ready to come into September and push for a bigger piece of the pie, bigger responsibility, bigger role, bigger minutes, whether it's penalty killing or chipping in, or some young player, whether it's Broberg or Holloway, to try to push to make the team. Desharnais, Niemelainen, Samorukov. That was my message to all those young players yesterday. So number one, to get better, part of it's got to be internal. It's a cap world. You can't just go out and spend a bunch of money and go to $110 million. So number one is the young kids. Number two, I think that we've had some players that had tremendous years. We need them to push hard this season to stay at that level. And then I think the third, falls on me and my staff as we analyze what we can or can't do as I work the phone. Leading up to, anything's going to happen, it's going to be the week of probably the draft in terms of trades. Obviously, a week after that is free agency. So we'll see where we're at. I haven't met any of the. I met some of the players, but this afternoon and tomorrow I'm basically meeting the team. Yesterday was the Black Aces, the young players that were here, the American League players. So I'll have more information in the next couple of days as to what the veterans are thinking.
Evander Kane, how hard are you going to push to bring him back? Do you believe you can bring him back?
Obviously he's an unrestricted free agent. Am I interested in bringing him back? Yes, I think he had a big impact on our team. Not only his ability to score goals, but he plays with an edge. I thought there was wonderful chemistry between him and Connor. He didn't play the first power play. He played on the second power play. So I thought we were deeper. When he joined our team, he made our team deeper. So can I keep him? Yeah. Again, his cap number is $2 million. I don't expect him to play for a $2 million cap number next year. I don't know what it is. I'd have to sit and talk to his agent, Dan Milstein. But again, I've got decisions to make and got to go through a process.
Just following up on that, Ken, do you have an indication that Evander is open to or would like to stay here if the contract is doable? Have you had any of those discussions about what he wants?
I do not. I think he's my last interview today. Next week I'll call the agents for all these, some of these players that we're talking about. So I do not know.
On Jay Woodcroft, obviously this team took steps. It was a pretty significant turnaround when he got here, but what's the process that happens now, and do you expect him to be back as head coach next year?
I just told Jay this morning that, I got to get through the next couple of days, and he and I'd sit down early next week, Monday or Tuesday, and I think he did a fabulous job. Obviously, when he took over, Dave Manson came up with him. And I told the coaches yesterday, I also thought the coaches that were here, they had a loyalty to Dave Tippett. He had hired them, and that they found real good chemistry amongst, the coaching staff that stayed back along when Woody came up. And that, I think we were at 6 or 7 points out of a playoff spot. And would we play the last 40 games? I think top 5 in the league in points to play our way into the playoff spot. So I thought Woody did a fabulous job. The team responded to him. And I told him that he and I meet on early next week, Monday or Tuesday, and have a discussion. But would I like him back? Yes, I am interested in him coming back. I want to hear what he's thinking, but I think he did a great job and was a big part of what we accomplished.
Ken, having seen what your team did in the postseason this year, you've talked in the past that, going all in at certain times kind of depends on where your team is at. Do you feel you're closer to an all-in moment now based on how your team performed this postseason?
Describe all-in moment.
Like, you talked about at the trade deadline, like, maybe you give up a first, where it's like, I'm not too worried about the...
Well, here, to answer your question, and I think Daniel Nugent-Bowman, it hits me up. When you're in, I'm expecting that we're going to be in LTI next year with Clefbaum. When you go to the trade deadline, so I don't know if you really know how LTI works. Like, the reality is when you get to the trade deadline, we're sitting with very small amount of money to work with. I mean, that's why what we did this year at the trade deadline, Kulak was what, 1.8. They ate half the money to get to 900, but they also took Lagos, and the reality is we took about $150,000 on to strike that deal with Montreal, and then we ended up doing a deal for Brassard where they cut it in half. We really took on probably $600,000-700,000 of cap space. That's the reality that I'm looking at next year at the trade deadline, because I'm not expecting Clef to play. I'm expecting we're going to be in LTI. So to do some big deal at the trade deadline and take on some guy that's making $4 or $5 million, I got to move $4 or $5 million out. That's the reality of being an LTI. So that situation, that all-in moment that you're talking about, is mega difficult.
So then, with that said, Bill Armstrong's on record as saying, you know what, hey, I'm open for business. I'll take on contracts and such. Is the Clefbaum one that now he's not going to play, is it imperative to try to move that then to give you more flexibility?
Well, but that's only giving you flexibility at the trade deadline. Like, you still can't, when the season starts, the cap's 81.5, we can go to 81.5 or snuggle up as high as we can, and then we put Clef on LTI. So I wouldn't want, why pay a price, you're paying a price to try to create some space for the trade deadline. Do you understand?
I guess not even just Clef, like a few other contracts. Would you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll explore anything. I mean, certainly, I'm up here. I understand the age. You look at what Connor and Leon accomplished at the playoffs. I mean, basically 2 points a game. Playing, almost a 100-point team in LA and a 110-point team in Calgary and a 120-point team in. I mean, we played three of the top teams in the Western Conference, and so certainly. And then, obviously Kane had almost a goal a game, and Zach Hyman had 11 goals, and so I understand that. Now again, there was a question here. Was Evander Kane? I got to find out what's going on with Evander Kane. So it's a puzzle. I got to piece all this puzzle together. I got to find out what some of these people are doing. Then I will explore making trades that would be in the best interest of the team for the 22-23 season. Am I prepared to pay some assets to try, if I think that there's a deal there that can make us better? The answer would be yes.
Ken, you talked a bit about Kane. There was another addition made at the deadline. That was Kulak. And I know you've got a bunch of defensemen already under contract, but I mean, the guy played pretty well for you in the playoffs. Would you look at, he's not going to be the same price point, but would there be an appetite to bring him back and bring him into a 3 or 4 year deal?
I met with him yesterday. I told Brett that I want to get through the next few days. I'll call his agent next week, and thought he played real well. He's a local, he grew up here, and would love to have a conversation to see if there's a fit for him to stay. So, I'll talk to his agent, Jerry Johansson, next week, and we'll see.
Jay, just to your right over here. I know you touched on Jay. I'm just wondering, in your conversations with the players, why did they respond so well to him, and what is it about Jay and Dave that they did so well to turn this team around?
First off, Jay's attention. I think there was a whole lot of things, and I think that Jay's attention to detail. I think that when somebody gets fired, middle of the season, a coach, I think coming into this year, I think our players had high expectations of them, with the moves it made and the age and everything. And we played the first 20 games. First quarter of the season, we were #1 overall. And then the bottom dropped out. We went 2-11-2, and we went from being first overall, at the halfway point, we're out of the playoffs. So I think Jay came in, he took charge. Jay's got an attention to detail. And again, I don't want to, Dave Tippett did a great job for us. So I don't want to, when Tip came here, we were 28th. The team the year before was 28th overall. I think they've been near the bottom of the league in penalty killing. And under Dave Tippett's watch, the first year we went to second in the league in penalty killing. We went from 28th overall to 12th overall, and I think we were 11th. So I don't want to. I want to make sure Dave Tippett's a good coach and did a good job here. I felt that when I made the decision in February that we just needed a change, just to try to jolt our team into getting back and getting going. And Jay did that. He came in, he took charge, made some tweaks, had an attention to detail, maybe moved some things around, and the players really responded. And I think one of the things that they liked about Jay, and again, this is nothing about Tippett, was that, as the season wore on, he'd have little adjustments, in-game adjustments, and adjustments for the next opponent. Maybe different than Tip did. And it worked, and I think we started to get our confidence back. And then obviously Evander Kane came in. We'd been decimated in the 2-11-2 with COVID. We'd 4, 5, 6 men down every game. Mike Smith came back. He wasn't here the first half of the year, and I think with Jay's leadership and then kind of getting our swagger back and getting our confidence back, that we got back up and running. But certainly I think Jay coming in, Dave Manson coming in. I guess, I've been around the league a long time, 25 years as a manager, and all 32 managers and all 32 coaches, the game is played on that 200 by 85, and sometimes you just need to change the voice a little bit, but we're all trying to do the same types of things. And I think Jay came in, and like I said, he grabbed the group, took charge, made some tweaks, and that's what was needed to get us going, and did a fabulous job. And I thought as the season wore on, I thought in game, he coached. He made in-game adjustments and made changes on the fly, and made line changes and switched people up, and worked on and had matchups. And he did a great job, not only in having our team prepared from a game to game, but during the game, in the game, making the necessary adjustments that were needed. If somebody was going, getting them up, and somebody wasn't going, getting them down. And our team responded, and again, he was a big part of us getting to the Final Four.
Hey, Ken, just to relate this to the team that just knocked you guys out, Colorado had a lot of forward depth. They played with speed and played with tempo. How equipped are the Oilers, to get to that level, play that game, in a Western Conference final or deeper? Are there internal solutions? Do you need to look outside? Just wondering about that.
What do I think of Denver?
No, just...
Or comparing us to Denver.
Team getting to that speed and tempo when you're deep in the playoffs against those guys.
Well, I mean, you look at a score, I guess I'm going to tell you how, you look at a score, fans look at a score, and the team that has the L is lousy, and the team that has the W is good, right? Isn't that what everybody looks at? I mean, I look at game 5 here, or game 4 the other day. I mean, we're down 1-0. It was just, we're up 3-1. We're down 4. It was, and at the end of the day, it goes to overtime. If we score, we're playing tonight. If we don't score, we're having a press conference. That's the league. You know what I'm saying? So, I think my experience is in Detroit, where you stick with it. You stick with it. You stick with it. We got to make some tweaks. We got to make some changes, but you stick with it. And when you lose, you're never a million miles away. And I've had the fortune to touch the Stanley Cup 4 times, and and be involved in 4 Stanley Cup. But the margin of error, the margin that is difference is marginally so. They're the best team in the West. They won I just said they won the President's Trophy. They've been good for 2 to 3 years now. They've been building to be good. You know, so do I think we're a million miles away? I don't. I think we're in the game, but I also think there was teams that are out that were not in the Final Four or in the Final Two in the West that are going to be back next year pushing to get into the Final Two in the West. Like, just because they're, I don't know, Calgary, Vegas, St. Louis, Minnesota. I'm going to rattle off 2 or 3 or 4 more teams. The difference between all these teams is marginally, and you're going to go back in this offseason, make some tweaks, they're all going to make some tweaks and make some changes. We're all starting from scratch on October the 7th or 10th, whenever the season starts, and you got to go do it all over again. And I think that, you know, we're growing, we're building, we're making progress, and you got to be there banging on the door year after year after year after year after year, and you got to be a playoff team, and then you got to. So Colorado's the best in the West, but there's going to be teams, not only Edmonton, there's going to be other teams in the Western Conference that feel like next year they want to play their way in and be one of those 2 teams in the Western Final to try to represent the West. So I just think that the margin of difference between so many teams is when you get into the round of 16, and then the round of 8, and then the round of 4, these games are decided. Like we just lost 3 games by a goal. You know, we were down 7-3 in game 1. We pushed to 7-6. I thought we had chances in game 1. I thought they did a great job, and they snuffed us out in game 2. And then it's 2-2 with 10 minutes to go in game 3, and they score a goal, and we hit the post, puck goes down the ice, they score. If the puck hits the post and goes in, it's 2-1. The puck hits the post, they score, it's 3-0. You know, you watch game 4. That's the National Hockey League. That's the National Hockey League. That's why we're not winning and losing 6-1 and 7-1, and we're thumping them or they're thumping us. These games are decided by such a small margin. So that's why you stick with it. You stick with it. You stick with it. So I think we can play with any team in the Western Conference. Again, we were number 1 overall over the first quarter of the season. We were in the top 5 of the league in regular season points. The last half the season, I think we had the highest point total, like I said, in 35 years. We got to the Final Four. We beat a 110-point team in Calgary, but we're not good enough. We're not good enough right now today to win the Stanley Cup. But we're not this far away. But we got to make some tweaks. We got to get some push from our kids. We need some of our younger people to make a push. The manager's got to make a couple of tweaks. The coach is going to make a couple of tweaks, and we're going to come back and we're going to see if we can. Got to try to play our way back into the playoffs again. Put ourselves in the exact same position. And hopefully the experiences of this year, the experiences of the Winnipeg playoff series, the experiences of missing the play, all the experiences will allow us to go further.
Goaltending, most important position of the team.
Yep.
So here's what we know. Skinner's coming in next year is probably going to be your backup. Koskinen's going somewhere else. Your team needs to give up less goals here. I know it's not all on goaltending, but you can't give up 5 a night in the playoffs.
Yep.
Do you have a number 1 goalie for next season? Mike Smith told us the other day he wasn't sure he was one. Do you have one?
I don't think we have a number 1 goalie. I do not know. We have 2 1As this year with Koski and Smitty when they're both healthy. I'd like them. 1A and 1B. How do I describe 1A and 1B? The guys that can play 40 to 45 games. A number 1 goalie to me can play 55 to 60. Yeah, I don't think many guys play more than 60. Now, Mark, what is there in the league? 10 or 12 of those? If we went by definition, you and I sat down, and then the reality is they're difficult I don't know if any of them are available. So I haven't worked the phone. I got to sit down with Smitty. I haven't met Smitty yet. I'm not sure what he's thinking. I have not met Koski. I think Koski's today and Smitty's tomorrow. I'm gathering information, and then I got to make some decisions. What's that?
You need one to win.
Well, everybody, you want one, but I'm going to do the best that we can. I think it's an all-encompassing. Do I want a number 1 goalie that's a stud that can play? Yeah, like I think 32 teams want that. It's like NFL quarterbacks. Like mean, there's not 30. You know, it's a unique position. So there's only a small amount of those, certainly, and many of those, Mark, many of those are homegrown. They're drafted, they're developed. You know, you look at the last night's game. I mean, those two are homegrown. You know, Shesterkin and Vasilevsky. So certainly we've got hopes for Stu Skinner, but I think he's 23 to really expect that he's going to come in and play 50, 55, 60 games. I think is too much to expect and too much responsibility to put on him. So I got to go through a process and figure out what to do. Where we're going. To think that we're going to end up with a number one guy that can play 60 games and he's a legit number one. He's 27, 28 years of age. The odds of that are pretty slim. But I haven't worked the phones. I don't know what other people out there are thinking. Managers in terms of who's available, who's not available. Is one available? And if is one available, they're going to want a massive price. I mean, they're not giving those guys away. They're going to want a massive price. So I don't know if one's available. And then I'm going to try to figure out a way to make our team the best that we can make it heading into September. I got to meet with Mike Smith. I thought, you know, we're in the Final Four. I thought Mike Smith, Koski, they dug in for us. They dug in for us all year. You don't make the playoffs in the National Hockey League without getting good goaltending. I thought Koski and Stu Skinner the first half of the year, and then Koski and Mike Smith. And then Mike Smith was a battler and was a big factor in us getting into the Final Four. So, but certainly Smitty's 40 years old. You met with Smitty yesterday. He gave us everything that he could. And I got to meet with him to see what he feels he's got in his tank, and he knows the league, he knows his body, and I got to gather some information. But certainly, I know that I've got to make some decisions in goal between now and when we get to camp.
I can just. Oh.
I got 5 more minutes, and I get my first. Okay, I'll get.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Ken. Just one for me over here, Ken. You referenced like being one of the top teams in the Western Conference, thinking that you can play with any of them and getting to the Final Four. So I just wonder, as you're kind of making your last tweaks here, are you kind of trying to team build toward beating those, kind of playing against those teams and beating those teams, or are you just trying to play more to your strengths? I guess what I'm asking is, are you trying to get to the point where you can match a Colorado or match a Calgary or a Vegas or whoever, or are you trying to kind of play to your strengths? Build your team?
Daniel, first off, you're sitting here at an Edmonton press conference. Most teams are having massive off-season decisions about their roster. We're in a salary cap world. The cap has been put in place. One of the reasons is for competitive balance. So you can't just get away and be way better for a long time. But certainly Tampa Bay has done that, and you tip your hat that a team is able to do that in a salary cap world. So we're going to try to make the team the very best that we can. And then go to training camp. Obviously, the goal is to be a playoff team, to try to have a good regular season, and then you got to go out and do it all over again. And again, like I said, part of getting better is internally. It's just some young people getting better. That's why there's that fine line you've asked me many times before, and Jason, you can just keep blowing out futures and blowing out futures and blowing out futures for today, for this year. But if you want to try to be consistently banging away at being good, you got to have people coming through the system. You got to have young people coming through the system that get on the team. They play cheap, they get better, and they take a bigger piece of pie, and then you pay them, and somebody else goes. And if you don't have that push, you go to the open market. You're going to sit until August the 15th and wait for everybody else to take all the best players off, and then you're going to look at what's left. So we got to have some of this getting better. Some of this it's not the sexy thing. It's not the sexy thing. We need Broberg to push his way on the team, and we needed Holloway to push and get on his team, and we need Bush to take the step. He took a step this year. Take another step. We need McLeod to take a step, and Jesse and Yamo and whoever's 24, Skinner. I mean, that's part of getting better. That's just to think that I'm going to go out and make some big blockbuster and have a press conference here, and that's what we did last year with Zach Hyman, right? We got fortunate on Evander Kane, so I gotta can't keep this team together. There's no chance. The team that we just had, I can't keep together because of salary cap, and some people might think, oh, that's good, get rid of some of those people, but it's the cap world. So I'm going to try to make the team the best that I can. I know we got a really good nucleus. We got to get a push to some kids. We got to make sure in the off season we're pushing these kids between development camps. We're trying to get some of these, keep our arms around where they're at as we head into training camp. That's part of getting better. And then now, what moves do I make to try to, whether it's, I got to figure out the goalie situation because I got to talk to Mike Smith. Koski's an unrestricted free agent. I know I've been pleased with Skinner's development, but I mean, that's what I got to sort out here the next month. The goal is to be good. The goal is, what's good? The goal is to compete with the best teams in the Western Conference, the best teams in the league. And I thought we did that for the first quarter of the season. I thought we did that for the last half of the season. I thought we did that for 3 playoff series. That's all history. That's all history. We can go back and we can miss the playoffs next year because there's teams that miss the playoffs that want to get in, and it's what I talked about here. It's the margin of difference between so many teams is not as big as great as people think. Whether you think we're better than those teams or whether you think we're worse than those teams, I'm just here to tell you there's lots of teams. The margin of error is very, very thin between lots of teams. One last question.
You mentioned Jesse.
Yes.
Jarvi. He's a lightning rod in this town. There's lots of fans love him. Can't understand why the media is all over him. What do you see in Jesse? He didn't play. He scored 5 goals in the last 60 games. He looked like he completely lost his confidence with the puck on his stick. Do you see him as a player like a Nikushkin who couldn't do it in Dallas? Suddenly the light went on and he was an offensive player.
Well, he had a great start. I think he had 6 goals in his first 10 games. I met with him. I met with Jesse yesterday, and I know Jesse's disappointed. But, he had a great start. He had a great, I think the first 13, 14, 15 games of the year was almost a point a game. And then, like you said, the second half of the year, it was a real struggle. So, I got to talk. I told Jesse I'd call his agent in the next week or 10 days. Obviously, he's a restricted free agent. I want to talk to the coaches, to talk to Woody, and then make some decisions. But certainly, he played really good the first quarter of the season, and then he kind of come off it, and it was a struggle for him. I think the last half, and I think he lost his confidence. Then when he lost his confidence, he obviously was in the top 6, and he worked his way down to the bottom 6. And but he's 24 years old. I mean, he's not really young, but he's relatively young. So I got to sort out Jesse.
Is he part of the solution?
That's what I got to sort out. And I talked to him yesterday. I don't want to divulge what we talked about, but I talked to him for a good half an hour yesterday, and I told him I would talk to his agent.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.